Princess Carolyn is my personal favorite BoJack Horseman character, and she has one of the most storied journeys of anyone on the show. We learn so much about PC's history over the course of the series, and that history paints a picture of an incredibly interesting and nuanced character. So join me as we explore the complete timeline of Princess Carolyn. Oh, and remember, I've done like 6 of these timelines already. Sarah Lynn, Beatrice, Todd, Herb, Diane, and Mr. Peanut Butter. So give those a watch, especially check out the Mr. Peanut Butter one because he's a good dog, yes he is. Speaking of Mr. Peanut Butter, that's a character who really likes to embrace childlike wonder despite being an adult, which is why I think he would love today's video sponsor, Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon honestly achieves the impossible. They make delicious, sweet cereals like we all used to eat when we were kids, but without the overload of sugar and carbs. Like they say on their box, it's the high-protein, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, wheat-free, naturally flavored, totally delicious, childlike cereal for grown-ups. I was honestly a little skeptical, but when I tried this stuff, I was blown away. I seriously can't stop eating it. I think I'm 90% cereal now. My favorite flavor is cocoa, but they're all really good. And a little pro tip for you, mix the cocoa with the peanut butter flavor for a real treat. If you're interested, you should check out the variety pack. It comes with 4 flavors. There are 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, only 4 net grams of carbs, and 140 calories in each serving. It's almost too good to be true. So if that sounds good to you, click the link in the description below to grab a variety pack to try today. Be sure to use my promo code Cellos at checkout to get $5 off any order, or go to magicspoon.com/cellos. Magic Spoon is so confident it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click the link below and use code Cellos for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/cellos to save $5 today. Princess Carolyn was born on June 6, 1974 in Eden, North Carolina. She was the youngest in a litter of 12 siblings and was also the runt of the litter. PC's family was very low income, and her mother, Cutie Cutie Cupcake, was a full-time live-in maid for a wealthy family, the Wallaces. Her entire family lived in a small apartment above the Wallaces' garage. PC's favorite movie was the Amelia Earhart story, which also happened to be the only videotape her family owned. This was a dramatic and exaggerated retelling of Amelia Earhart's journey as a pilot. Princess Carolyn used this film as an escape and watched it so much that the tape actually wore out. Princess Carolyn's mother was an alcoholic, which got worse as she got older, and often led to PC being forced to do her mother's maid work for her. In 1992, at age 18, Princess Carolyn's siblings had all moved out, leaving her to live alone with her mother. Around this time, PC became friends with the Wallace's teenage son, Cooper Thomas Rogers Wallace III. PC encouraged him to try out for the football team, and he became the first-string quarterback. This led to a romantic connection, and the two of them slept together. The same night of this hookup, Princess Carolyn argued with her mother about going to college in California. Cutie chastised PC for wanting to leave and tried to scare her about their inability to pay for college. She guilt-trips PC in an incredibly unhealthy way.
All the way on the other side of the country from your mother? You're going to abandon me?
Not long after this, Princess Carolyn discovers that she's pregnant with Cooper's child, leading her to believe her life is over. However, Cutie sees this as a huge opportunity that the Wallace family will now be forced to support her for the rest of her life. Cutie then gives Princess Carolyn a necklace and tells her that it's an old family heirloom passed down from the old country.
And when you wear this, I want you to remember that you've come from a long line of women who've taken our licks, but we always land on our feet.
She then tells PC not to blow it because this is their shot. Princess Carolyn meets with Cooper and Mr. Wallace that night, and they agree that the two will get married. He tells her that they'll be financially supported for the rest of her life, with the caveat that her entire life will be meticulously planned out. PC agrees. Unfortunately, after this, Princess Carolyn has her first miscarriage, and Cutie blames it entirely on Princess Carolyn.
Miscarriages don't just happen. This was our ticket. That baby would have changed everything for us.
PC sobs and apologizes to her mother, who then tells her that she's free now and reveals that an acceptance letter to UCLA came in the mail. Shortly after this, Princess Carolyn heads off to Los Angeles. As she waits to board the plane, her mother begs her to stay with her just one more year. PC refuses and heads off to her new life. In 1993, Princess Carolyn begins working as an intern for talent agent Marv Sparbory to help pay for college. Through working with Marv, PC meets BoJack Horseman. The first time Princess Carolyn met BoJack, she went to his house to drop off scripts, only to discover he was passed out on his lawn covered in tapioca pudding. PC hoses down BoJack, drags him inside, and covers him with a blanket. The second time PC meets BoJack was after a taping of Horsing Around. She went backstage to say hi, but BoJack wrote her off and told her to leave him alone. The third time she met BoJack was at her office when BoJack came in to meet with Marv. On Halloween 1993, Princess Carolyn attends BoJack's first annual Halloween party. She dresses as Amelia Earhart, but was put on door duty to hand out Emmy screeners to trick-or-treaters. years. Eventually, PC was promoted from intern to Marv's assistant. In 2003, Princess Carolyn attended a poker match at Wilder Valderrama's house with a variety of other Hollywood folks, including Mr. Peanut Butter. PC notices that PB has a tell when he's bluffing. In 2004, Princess Carolyn attended BoJack's annual Halloween party, once again dressed as Amelia Earhart. While there, she answers the door for some trick-or-treaters, who she says are too old to be trick-or-treating, and sends them away. She also helps BoJack make a last-minute costume using toilet paper to turn him into a mummy. In 2007, Princess Carolyn and BoJack Horseman sleep together for the first time. She tells him that she doesn't want to make a thing of it, and he agrees. PC then starts working to get BoJack some work to prove that she has agent potential. She convinces him to meet with a TV writer named Cuddly Whiskers to talk about a show he wrote. The meeting goes really well, but BoJack is still worried about doing the project. PC begs him to give a reason. BoJack says that the show sounds incredible, and he's worried that he isn't. PC tells him he's got it all wrong.
You're bright, and you're funny, and you're handsome, and you're talented. But if you can't see that, then you're the biggest, dumbest piece of shit in the world.
BoJack agrees to do the show and thanks Princess Carolyn for it. After a table read for the show goes exceptionally well, BoJack and Cuddly Whiskers panic and decide to rewrite the script, despite Princess Carolyn's objections. BoJack berates PC for giving her 2 cents.
Is that how you think of me? As your agent's assistant?
Well, what do you think you are?
I don't know, I guess...
Well, here's some free advice. You should know.
After this, Princess Carolyn immediately goes to Marv and asks to be an agent. Marv quits on the spot and gives her all of his clients, including BoJack Horseman. BoJack and Cuddly Whiskers' show morphs into something called the BoJack Horseman Show, and Princess Carolyn goes to BoJack's premiere party at his house. At this party, PC rejects BoJack's advances, telling him that she wants to have a family by the time she's 40 years old.
I don't want to spend the next 7 years of my life falling in and out of love with you. I've wasted too much time waiting for things to happen. And I'm not going to wait anymore.
Unfortunately, the premiere for the BoJack Horseman show is a miserable failure, sending BoJack spiraling. He calls Princess Carolyn to come comfort him, and due to her upbringing being conditioned to cover for and emotionally support her mother for her entire life, she obliges. The two sleep together again.
Don't you break my heart, BoJack Horseman.
In 2009, Princess Carolyn once again attends BoJack's annual Halloween party, but now they're dating. She answers the door for a teenage Todd Chavez, who questions why she's on door duty at her boyfriend's party. PC ponders this before leaving the party to rethink her life. Princess Carolyn maintains an on-again, off-again romantic relationship with BoJack through 2014. Sometime during this period, her father died, and BoJack attended the funeral with her. Over this time, PC continued to excel as a talent agent. In 2014, Princess Carolyn formally breaks things off with BoJack romantically, but not professionally. Despite this, they continue to sleep together for a period of time afterwards. After learning that pop star and actress Sarah Lynn fired her agent, PC springs into action with a daring plan. She clumsily attempts to woo Sarah Lynn while subtly dropping the name of her rival, Vanessa Gecko, who also happens to be Sarah Lynn's ex-boyfriend Andrew Garfield's agent. As soon as Sarah Lynn decides to hire Vanessa Gecko, PC has the info leaked and hoped that it would lead to Andrew Garfield firing his agent for signing his ex, in which case she would attempt to sign Garfield herself. Not long after this, Todd Chavez starts to write a rock opera, and when it's looking like it's going to be a success, PC swoops in and signs Todd as a client. Shortly after this, when BoJack goes out of town for his book, Todd turns BoJack's house into a museum called Boreanaz's house, where people get to see where David Boreanaz lives, despite not being his actual house. Princess Carolyn quickly jumps in on the scheme and helps increase revenue. Unfortunately, Todd can't keep up with the cash flow, and the entire operation is shut down. PC abandons ship, and Todd is sent to jail. Shortly after this, BoJack is sent spiraling because Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane Wynn got engaged. Princess Carolyn gives him her "get your shit together" speech, and then gets him a new gig as the face of Guten Bourbon. Unfortunately, the same day, PC's agency Vigor merges with another agency, FME, forcing her to share an office with her rival, Vanessa Gecko. She then learns that BoJack has abandoned his gig for Guten Bourbon, but her other client, Todd Chavez, immediately books the role in his place. BoJack shows up at PC's office and attempts to rekindle their romantic relationship. Princess Carolyn tries to turn him down, knowing it's just a rebound from his Diane drama. She tells him she can't be his girlfriend and his agent. This leads to BoJack firing PC and hiring Vanessa Gecko so that he can date PC. While giving a "get your shit together" speech to Todd, PC misses the meeting for the Ava Braun film project she put together for her client, Cate Blanchett. Exasperated by the stress of the day, PC agrees to go out with BoJack and has a wonderful time. For the moment, she's very happy. Unfortunately, they both get phone calls at the same time. PC learns that Vanessa Gecko has signed Cate Blanchett away from her, while BoJack is invited to go see Herb Kazaz in Malibu. BoJack breaks things off with PC and leaves her alone at the restaurant.
Of course. That's what you get when you fall for a horse.
This is when Princess Carolyn kicks it into gear. She gives herself a "get your shit together" speech and gets to work. Princess Carolyn quickly throws together a film adaptation of a book called Suffragette City, attaching Cameron Crowe to direct. She knows this is Cate Blanchett's favorite book and is able to lure her away from the Ava Braun project. PC re-signs Cate Blanchett. Then, because the Ava Braun project fell apart, PC is able to organize a new rom-com based on the story of the D from the Hollywoodstein being stolen by Mr. Peanut Butter for director Quentin Tarantino. She also books BoJack a role in the project. PC took her licks, but she always lands on her feet. She then calls BoJack to tell him the good news, but he tells her he doesn't care about that and that nothing matters. Princess Carolyn hangs up, looks out her window over the Santa Monica shoreline. The clock strikes midnight and her phone notification goes off.
Happy birthday, Princess Carolyn. You are 40.
Not long after this, Princess Carolyn is tricked by BoJack into coming to the bar to help him sabotage Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter's wedding, which she takes major exception to. But while there, she meets Vincent Adultman, a man who specializes in business transactions at the business factory. The two hit it off and start dating. PC later thanks BoJack for inviting her to the bar where she met him. She even says she's in love with him. A couple of months after Diane and PB's wedding, the film Mr. Peanut Butter's Hollywood Heist, that was put together by Princess Carolyn, starts production, with BoJack playing the part of Mr. Peanut Butter. The project eventually morphs into a bi-monthly curated basket of snacks. Around this time, BoJack also fires Diane from writing his book after her first draft is drastically different than what he expected. Princess Carolyn is furious that BoJack is rewriting the book himself, given that Diane's book was actually good. BoJack ultimately releases Diane's book to major critical acclaim, and in 2015 he even wins a Golden Globe for the book. With his newfound star power, Princess Carolyn starts finding BoJack work. They turn down the villain in the next Bond film, and Princess Carolyn suggests BoJack do the next Coen Brothers movie, but BoJack wants to do Secretariat. PC is also a little worried about her relationship with Vincent at this point. The two go out to dinner and have a serious talk about their relationship.
I thought I wanted to date a real adult, but I'm actually young at heart. I need to feel the grass between my toes.
That's baby stuff.
Princess Carolyn breaks up with Vincent at dinner. Not long after this, at PB Levin's launch party for Smoothies, Vincent makes a grand gesture professing his love for PC.
I had an attitude problem, but then I took a time out and I thought about what I did.
The two make up and plan a trip together. About a month later, Princess Carolyn has a new terrible assistant and is dealing with BoJack's stumbles through his first days on Secretariat. She's also talking more with her friend and co-worker Rutabaga Rabinowitz, but after sharing with him some inside info about a project she's putting together for one of her clients, he uses that info to get his own client to screen test for the same project. Shortly after this, Princess Carolyn and Vincent visit Todd's new theme park, Disneyland. Vincent throws a bit of a tantrum, which PC claims is because of his new adult braces, but he complains that she's embarrassing him. Later, Princess Carolyn attends the funeral of Herb Kazaz, the creator of Horsin' Around and BoJack's former best friend. While there, PC gets caught up in the lie that she actually knew Herb very well, which isn't true, and was forced to improvise stories of her friendship with Herb for the entire wake. Because of this forged connection, Henry Winkler decides that PC should have Herb's ashes. On March 19th, 2015, Princess Carolyn attends Diane Wynn's surprise 35th birthday party. After Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter get in a huge fight about whether or not Tony Curtis is dead, the party ends prematurely. PC offers to take Todd home. On the way, they see a boy crossing the street who looks exactly like Vincent. Princess Carolyn assumes that this is Vincent's son. After she gets home, the boy shows up at her door and says his name is Kevin. He explains that he's Vincent's son. Vincent shows up eventually too, though we never really see them at the same time for some reason. Strange. After much discussion, Princess Carolyn breaks up with Vincent. PC soon attends a wedding for one of her nieces. Later, Hollywood agent Ronnie Bonito is found dead, leading to a free-for-all for agents to sign as clients. Princess Carolyn was late for work that day, and she's only able to sign one of them, Mr. Peanut Butter. Fortunately for PC, Rutabaga has a tip that Ronnie had a super hush-hush client that nobody knew about, J.D. Salinger, author of Catcher in the Rye, and others. PC tracks down J.D. Salinger, signs him, and helps him pitch a new project to Wanda at MBN, a game show called J.D. Salinger Presents Hollywood Stars and Celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. Princess Carolyn realizes that the best person for the hosting job is none other than Mr. Peanut Butter, and she lands big deals for both of her new clients at the same time. Despite this, PC receives no recognition for her success from her boss at Vigor. To cheer her up, Rutabaga gives her his famous movie star speech. He then tells her that he and his wife are getting a divorce. After this, Princess Carolyn goes on a press tour with BoJack and Diane to promote the paperback release of One Trick Pony. While fielding questions, Diane drudges up old allegations against Hollywood star Hank Hippopopoulos, causing a media frenzy. PC tries to help Diane navigate this by setting up a meeting at Manatee Fair. During the premiere episode of Hollywood Stars and Celebrities, What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. BoJack looks a bit like an asshole and an idiot. To help combat this, PC tells BoJack about Mr. Peanut Butter's bluff tell that she learned playing poker with him in 2003. Shortly after this premiere, Rutabaga pulls PC into a janitor's closet and tells her that he wants to leave Vigor and start an agency with her. Princess Carolyn isn't sure, as she's worked at Vigor for her entire career. She's then roped into helping BoJack and Secretariat Director Kelsey Jennings break into the Nixon library to steal a shot for the film. PC is a part of the team that creates a distraction at the art gallery near the Nixon library, and while there, she has a vision of herself living in one of the paintings at the gallery. It's a fantasy of a calm, serene life, and she's immediately bored by it. She leaves, and as soon as she gets back to her office, she pulls Rutabaga into the elevator, kisses him, and accepts his offer. Shortly after this, Rutabaga purchases the building for their new agency with 2 months of prep before they move in, but he also tells PC that the property and company is under her name while he deals with his divorce. PC asks BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter if they'll follow her to her new agency, and they both agree. Shortly after this, BoJack doesn't show up on the set of Secretariat, and PC calls him to try and wrangle him in, only to discover that he's in New Mexico and won't be coming home anytime soon. 2 months later, the new agency is ready to launch. BoJack has returned to LA, and PC informs him that as he requested, she gave BoJack's Horseman around residuals to build a new orphanage. They go to the opening, which is uncomfortable. As Princess Carolyn and Rutabaga are preparing to move into their agency, PC realizes that Rutabaga is still working things out with his wife, despite the fact that they've been sleeping together. Rutabaga insists that he will be divorced. Princess Carolyn then reaches out to Diane, who has been secretly crashing on BoJack's deck for months, and offers her a job as a social media liaison for the new agency. Diane asks her why she's offering to help, and PC replies by describing the exact tendency we saw instilled in her by her mother.
My life is a mess right now, and I compulsively take care of other people when I don't know how to take care of myself.
Princess Carolyn and Rutabaga then make a noisy and dramatic exit when they quit Vigor, and as they get in the elevator, Rutabaga tries to kiss PC. Princess Carolyn rejects him, and Rutabaga responds with some incredibly rude comments about how PC is in her 40s, will never do better than him, and should expect to be alone if she holds out for better. She responds that she isn't afraid to be alone and delivers the final blow.
And you might want to find someplace else to work, because you're not coming with me.
With the company and property all in her name, she has no obligation to hire Rutabaga and leaves him to run her new company by herself. Soon, PC's agency Vim is up and running with help from her new assistant, Judah Man Now Dog. However, Princess Carolyn really starts to struggle with her new role running an agency, as she's used to doing all of the hands-on work herself. Her client, JD Salinger, decides to end their run of Hollywood stars and celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. And then Salinger proceeds to fire PC for unprofessional behavior. Through the stress, Judah suggests that he take on more responsibility at the company, as well as prioritize finding great gigs for their existing clients instead of spreading themselves thin finding new clients. With this new directive, PC tells Mr. Peanut Butter to start looking for new work and ideas, and he starts up PB Livin' again. Not long after this, Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd both get sprayed by his skunk neighbor, and Princess Carolyn comes over to help eliminate the smell, which introduces all types of issues. Eventually, they burn their clothes, setting fire to Mr. Peanut Butter's lawn, and PC suggests that they insist this was on purpose to install drought-resistant landscaping. Later in the year, Secretariat finally hits theaters and is a huge success. Princess Carolyn calls BoJack to tell him that he's now a bona fide movie star. That same night, Princess Carolyn actually has a free evening and jokingly asks Judah to get her 3 dates since she so rarely has time off. Judah takes her seriously and books 3 separate dates for her that night. PC's first date is incredibly boring and talks about the glass industry nonstop. The second is an albino rhino gyno that basically laughs in PC's face when she suggests she'd like to still have kids. So, not great dates. The third is a mouse named Ralph Stilton, and the pair laugh at the irony of a cat and mouse being set up on a blind date. But despite this, the two have an amazing time together. At the end of the night, Ralph asks if he can see her again, and she laments that she has no idea when her next free evening will be. They agree that she'll call him if she ever frees up. Not long after this, Diane, who's getting an abortion, accidentally tweets, "I'm getting an abortion," from pop star Sixtina Aquafina's Twitter account, causing all kinds of drama at Vim. But when the reaction is actually positive, they lean into the lie, with Princess Carolyn's help. This leads to a new hit single about abortion, as well as PC producing a fake live broadcast of Sixtina's abortion that turns out to be surprisingly tasteful and informative. PC sits with Diane after her abortion, and Diane tries to justify her experience to PC, somebody who wants to be a mother, but Princess Carolyn cuts her off.
Diane, you don't need to explain anything to anyone.
PC then gets a call from Sixtina, who is now actually pregnant and wants to keep the baby. PC and Diane brainstorm the best way to navigate this new development. During the 4-year consideration season in Hollywood, PC helped BoJack and the Secretariat team decide what FYC ads they want to use for his awards campaign. They opt for a mirror ad that says, "You are Secretariat," which causes major problems in billboard form. With BoJack's new star power, PC powers ahead to try and get him a huge franchise role in David Fincher's Flight of the Pegasus trilogy. Simultaneously, Rutabaga and Vanessa Gecko are working to get their client Chuff Hollister the same role. They send Kelsey Jennings to try and book BoJack on her new film and help her secure funding, which would interfere with the Flight of the Pegasus schedule. BoJack actually really wants to do Kelsey's film, and PC now has to navigate BoJack's wishes and her own agency's success. Kelsey's film option expires in the new year 2016, so on New Year's Eve 2015, PC tries her best to get BoJack both Kelsey's film and Flight of the Pegasus, but unfortunately, because of her overzealousness, both fall through, leaving Kelsey furious at BoJack and BoJack rollless. Judah immediately recognizes that they'll need to cut costs, and PC yells at him. She then apologizes, sends him home, and watches the New Year's fireworks as she sits in her own failure. Shortly after this, in 2016, PC goes to meet BoJack at Elefante and tries her best to damage control the situation, but BoJack is set on firing her. While doing this, he accidentally fires the head chef at Elefante, Sandro, instead, who leaves with the vast majority of the staff, all while a food critic is waiting for their food. Princess Carolyn and BoJack argue for a while, unloading a lot of pent-up feelings and resentment from years of working together and dating. They get in a physical fight at the restaurant. Eventually, they end up talking in the meat locker, and PC starts to tell BoJack the things she does like about him, though he tries to write them all off. She tells him she liked being with him and doesn't regret the time they were together. The last staff member remaining at the restaurant then tells PC and BoJack that they need a mushroom risotto for the food critic. PC says she knows how to make it, but instead of putting out another BoJack fire, she leaves. As she drives away, she can't help herself from turning around to go help BoJack one more time. She makes the mushroom risotto and they serve it to the food critic. Later, BoJack and PC talk and reminisce about their time together and about the first few times they met. PC begs BoJack not to fire her and give her one last chance. He refuses and he fires her anyways.
What do you think?
No.
With these major losses, PC is forced to close Vim. She fires Diane, and Judah suggests that PC embrace her new opportunities in life. Princess Carolyn immediately calls Ralph, and the two start dating. Sometime during January or February 2016, BoJack shows up at PC's apartment and yells that he's sorry to her from the front yard. PC appears at the balcony with Ralph and then goes inside without talking to BoJack. PC and Ralph take a trip to Egypt together, and not long after this, they have dinner with Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane. PC is having a really hard time turning her agent brain off and starts booking appointments for Diane, suggesting she meet with Ralph's sister Stefani about working for her new news outlet Girl Crush. This is when PC realizes that she shouldn't be an agent, she should be a manager. She reopens Vim and rehires Judah, now a management company. Judah also informs PC that a teenage girl is trying to contact BoJack, but PC tells him that she doesn't work for BoJack anymore. In October 2016, Princess Carolyn is now having some major success running Vim as a management company. She's also supporting Mr. Peanut Butter's run for the governorship of California. She also learns that she's pregnant, which she keeps to herself. Ralph asks PC if she wants to move in with him, but she tells him it isn't a good time. In early 2017, at the gubernatorial ski race down Devil's Mountain, PC tells Ralph that she was pregnant, but since had a miscarriage. Ralph tells her that he thinks they should try to get pregnant on purpose.
I'm saying maybe we should get you pregnant on purpose.
Really?
Later in 2017, PC asks Todd to help her with her client Courtney Portnoy's image by going on a date with her, hopefully making her appear more relatable. Todd reluctantly agrees, but messes up a couple of times. PC then tells Todd he needs to try again, which leads to Courtney proclaiming to the paparazzi that she and Todd are engaged. Shortly after this, PC and Ralph are fully pursuing pregnancy, but PC's gyno tells her she's running out of eggs. He gives them a series of helpful tools to try and get pregnant, including a watch with the voice of Harvey Fierstein that informs her when she's ovulating.
Let's put a baby in you.
They get a notification while eating lunch, and they quickly try to rush home to have sex, but are pulled over and arrested by Officer Meow Meow Fuzzy Face. Without any other option, PC and Ralph have sex in the back of the cop car. Later this year, a mass shooting takes place at a mall, which puts Courtney Portnoy's film Mistaken in jeopardy. Princess Carolyn works with the studio to try and rework the film or do damage control. She hires Diane to write a puff piece about Mistaken, but after Courtney Portnoy stops the pair of them from being mugged with her gun, Diane embraces firearms and writes an article about that. PC uses this to help reframe Mistaken as pro-woman, but after a woman commits a mass shooting, California outlaws guns entirely, putting an end to Mistaken.
I can't believe this country hates women more than it loves guns.
No?
Soon, PC is forced to team back up with Rutabaga, who is working as Courtney Portnoy's new agent, and the pair plan a spur-of-the-moment fake wedding for Courtney and Todd. This plan is derailed when Meryl Streep announces she's retiring from acting and having a retirement party the same day as the big Hollywood fake wedding. PC and Rutabaga decide to pitch Meryl a movie she can't say no to.
Are you suggesting some sort of Nutty Professor 2 the Clumps type situation where Meryl Streep plays every role?
They end up trapping Meryl in a box with a contract underneath.
We got Meryl!
But in the end, Todd decides against marrying Courtney, which puts an end to their wedding plan once and for all. After Rutabaga leaves and insults PC's potential capabilities as a mother in the process, Judah tells Princess Carolyn that she will make a great mother. After Judah leaves, PC pulls out a positive pregnancy test confirming that she is indeed pregnant. Later that year, PC attends Mr. Peanut Butter's campaign fundraiser for his gubernatorial candidacy. While PC is using the bathroom in their pool house, the entire property collapses underground due to the fracking that Mr. Peanut Butter authorized in his backyard. PC and Todd wander through the underground tunnels looking for a way out and run into an army of ants. PC helps them negotiate a new labor deal with their queen, and they then help move Mr. Peanut Butter's house back above ground. After this, Princess Carolyn goes with Ralph to visit his family at Stilton Acres. What she didn't realize is that they were there celebrating St. Squeakivis, an anti-cat holiday which puts PC and Ralph's relationship in a rocky place and makes PC very uncomfortable. When leaving Stilton Acres, Ralph's parents insult PC to his face, and he sticks up for her, saying that he loves her and telling them about their baby.
I love Princess Carolyn, and we're having a baby, and I couldn't be happier.
Unfortunately, shortly after this, PC has the worst day of her entire life. First, Courtney Portnoy fires her because of the mistaken and failed wedding debacles. Then she discovers that she has miscarried again and that pregnancy might not be in the cards for her. She also tries to get her necklace fixed, the one that her mother gave her, and the jewelry store informs her that it's not a family heirloom at all, but a cheap piece of jewelry from the 1960s. She also learns that during the previous year, Charlie Witherspoon offered to merge his agency with Vim and that Judah never told her about it. In her frustration, she fires Judah. PC struggles to figure out how to tell Ralph about her miscarriage, so she goes to her old apartment, which she still owns, but runs into Todd's new clown dentistry school. She ends up drinking with Todd and the clowns all night. Ralph eventually comes over to check on her, and they get in a fight about their relationship and the miscarriage. Princess Carolyn then breaks up with Ralph. Later that night, PC crashes on her couch at her office and talks to BoJack on the phone. She tells him that when she's having a really bad day, she imagines her descendant doing a school report about her in the distant future, and it makes everything feel like it will turn out okay, even though it's not real. After this awful day, PC continues to spiral, drinking more often. In January 2018, Princess Carolyn is called into a meeting at Vim with a young writer named Flit McVicker. PC is very dismissive until she sees the name of the show, Filbert, the same name she and Ralph had decided on for their baby. Princess Carolyn takes special interest in this project, which seems to have more symbolic importance than actual importance. With the help of Todd and his clowntists, she makes her meeting with Lenny Turtletaub at Parrotmount, who suggests she pitch the show to whattimeitrightnow.com, but demands she attach an actor to the project. Shockingly, he wants BoJack Horseman for the role. In order to get the deal signed and approved on time, PC forges BoJack's name without asking if he'll do the project. Later, PC officially pitches the show to whattimeitrightnow.com, and they approve, particularly because they're fans of BoJack. After another bender and spiral, Todd brings PC to the woods and ties her to a dentist chair, giving her one of her own patented get your shit together speeches.
Look, the woods are dark and scary, but the only way out is through.
Princess Carolyn eventually goes to beg BoJack to work on the project for her, and shockingly, without any second guessing, BoJack agrees. He also tells her that she should consider adoption because she would make a great mother. By September 2018, Filbert is in full swing with Princess Carolyn producing the project. She's also in the process of adopting a child herself, but struggles with the caseworker she's paired up with at the adoption agency. BoJack is also having a hard time with the series and complains to PC, who begs him to just stick it out for the 10 weeks of filming. Princess Carolyn later decides to cast a canceled actor named Vance Wagner to play Filbert's partner Fritz on the show, who's also receiving a Forgivey Award. When BoJack inadvertently looks disgusted at the award ceremony, he gets good press, which is also bad for Vance and for Filbert. PC has him try to clear it up, but he just further entrenches himself in his newfound positive reception from the feminist crowd. Vance eventually quits Filbert, and PC decides to cast Mr. Peanut Butter as Fritz instead. That same month, Princess Carolyn goes back to her hometown, Eden, North Carolina, to talk to a mother about potentially adopting her child. This brings back all kinds of memories of her childhood, as she hadn't visited since her mother died. She meets with Sadie, who is 18 years old and isn't sure if she can keep her baby or not. While PC is trying to make a good impression on Sadie, she's continually interrupted by folks from the production of Filbert, which makes Sadie think that PC might be too busy to be a good mother.
I know you're busy. I don't want me or my baby to get in the way of your career.
That evening, Sadie's boyfriend suddenly proposes to her and implies that he wants to raise a child with her. PC tries to convince Sadie that he might not be trustworthy, but Sadie chastises Princess Carolyn for treating this adoption like a sales pitch. She puts her in her place and walks away from the adoption. Later, while working on Filbert, PC asks Todd, who is now the vice president of ad sales for whattimeitrightnow.com, if she can have an office on set. She's drafted the paperwork, but as he's about to sign, he accuses PC of eating his string cheese. They get into an argument over this that goes all the way to a mediator at the production studio. They eventually resolve the dispute and agree to be better co-workers and roommates, right as Todd discovers that his missing string cheese was in his jacket pocket all along. On Halloween 2018, Princess Carolyn once again attends BoJack's annual Halloween party as Amelia Earhart, and as always, she's answering the door. After Filbert wraps filming in November 2018, Mr. Peanut Butter approaches Princess Carolyn about optioning a greeting card that he found for a movie called Birthday Dad. PC doesn't really understand, but sees that the card was written by her ex Ralph's company. The two get dinner together to catch up. While at dinner, PC gets a call from her caseworker about a woman at a nearby hospital who wants to give her baby up for adoption. Ralph helps PC race there to try and secure the adoption. Princess Carolyn meets the new baby, and her birth mother, Bridget, mistakes PC and Ralph as a couple. Ralph implies he'd like them to be a couple again, but PC rejects him. She says that she's ready to be a single mom and raise this baby by herself.
I'm not afraid of how hard it's gonna be. I already love this baby, and that gives me so much power. I don't need anything else.
And this actually ends up inspiring Bridget to raise the child herself, leaving PC childless again. Filbert premieres in early 2019, and before the premiere, Princess Carolyn is tasked with dealing with two writers who wrote jokes on popsicle sticks, who accuse Flip McVicker of plagiarizing one of their jokes in Filbert. She's able to solve the dispute at the Filbert premiere, where they also learn that the show has been renewed for a second season. Later in the year, while filming Filbert Season 2, in a drug-fueled stupor, BoJack ends up actually choking his co-star Gina during a choking scene. This is filmed by crew members and leaks, creating major gossip and speculation. Princess Carolyn sets up a fluff piece interview with Biscuits Braxby so that BoJack and Gina can do major damage control. Before the interview, PC gets a call from Sadie in North Carolina, who's going into labor. She says that her boyfriend left her and she wants to give PC the baby, but she also says that if she can't get there by the time the baby is born, she's going to give the baby to someone else. Rather than race to Eden, PC ends up dealing with the PR nightmare. Filbert actually ends up getting canceled for unrelated reasons after the robot CEO Henry Fondle is accused of sexual harassment.
Now entering sleep mode.
You want to sleep with me?
Instead of work with Flip to try and find the show a new home, PC leaves LA and goes to Eden to adopt her new child, who she says she's going to name Untitled Princess Carolyn Project. In mid to late 2019, PC is adjusting to life as a single mother while she manages and produces Mr. Peanut Butter's new movie, Birthday Dad. Unfortunately, Mr. Peanut Butter becomes difficult to work with, which greatly frustrates the director, Flea Daniels. When PC gets home after this debacle, her nanny quits, forcing PC to be more hands-on as a parent while dealing with her workload. The next day, Princess Carolyn has to go to a photo shoot for Manatee Fair for their Hollywood Women Can Do It All issue. She thinks about skipping this event until she learns that Vanessa Gecko is there, and then she attends. She has Todd watch her baby while she goes, only to discover that the kids were supposed to be a part of the photo shoot. Todd has to bring back the baby to the photo shoot after all. While at the shoot, PC gets roped into organizing an event at Vim for women in the industry, adding more to her full plate. This eventually morphs into a full-on gala. PC is then also roped into going to BoJack's rehab to pick up Mr. Peanut Butter. On the way there, Flea Daniels calls to complain about Birthday Dad, stating that it's only 42 minutes long and barely makes sense, eventually quitting the project. At Pastiche's rehab facility, PC takes a quick break that turns into a long nap. BoJack wakes her up and she realizes she missed the gala at Vim. PC gets the idea to sell the Birthday Dad movie cut as a pilot episode to MBN as a potential series, and MBN buys it. When PC gets to Vim, she realizes that the gala event has ended, but she has a real heart-to-heart with Vanessa Gecko, who gives her some great advice about raising a child.
You just have to do it the best that you can, and know that that's the best you can do.
PC questions why they spent so long hating each other, and Gecko claims she never actually hated Princess Carolyn. When Princess Carolyn gets home, she spends some much-needed time alone with her daughter, who she finally comes up with a name for, Ruthie.
Isn't that right? Ruthie?
Shortly after this, PC and Ruthie attend Mr. Peanut Butter and Pickles' surprise wedding, which goes horribly wrong as Mr. Peanut Butter admits to Pickles that he cheated on her right before everyone jumps out for the surprise. They all have to hide themselves from the couple the rest of the night. While hiding, Ruthie escapes and PC and Todd have to chase her down without tipping off Mr. Peanut Butter or Pickles. She eventually recaptures Ruthie and escapes the house. While trying to get her back, PC recognizes that Todd has a real knack for childcare and asks him to be her permanent nanny. He agrees. PC continues to manage Mr. Peanut Butter, who has become a meme known as Sad Dog online. PC thinks it's smart to lean into this meme. She also fields a call from Diane, who wants advice on a book she's writing, which PC promptly sells and gives Diane 6 months to finish. Around this time, a major assistant strike hits Hollywood, shutting down the entire city, which obviously cannot function without assistants. PC and Lenny Turtletop are negotiating with the assistant's leadership. PC initially tries to end the strike by simply offering the strike's leader, Casey, a promotion, which does work. PC eventually realizes that she was treated just as poorly when she was Marv's assistant, and decides she actually should help the striking assistants instead. She contacts Judah and hires him to represent them. Judah manages to end the strike in a single sit-down negotiation. While talking to Judah, PC realizes that this strike was the most time she's gotten to spend with Ruthie, and also that Judah might be the assistant she should have promoted. In late 2019, BoJack, who's now out of rehab, shows up at PC's house. He brings her a painting as a gift and asks her for a recommendation for a drama professor position at Wesleyan University. While talking to BoJack, PC gets emotional about going back to work, worrying that her new connection with Ruthie will disappear. BoJack gives her some helpful helpful advice, that she probably shouldn't be handling so many things hands-on since she's the boss. She needs other people to work close to her position.
You are producing a show, running a company, catering to your clients, raising a child, a Todd. You need your own Princess Carolyn to take care of you.
Princess Carolyn subsequently rehires Judah as chief of operations, giving her more free time to spend with Ruthie every week. In early 2020, PC tries to motivate Diane into finishing her book, which is a struggle. PC is eventually sent a few chapters of a different book by Diane, a young adult novel called Ivy Tran Food Court Detective. Princess Carolyn encourages Diane to continue this project, but Diane doesn't want to. In spring 2020, Princess Carolyn, Todd, Ruthie, and Diane all attend the end-of-year performance for BoJack's drama class. After the performance, PC has a heart-to-heart with Diane and convinces her that writing Ivy Tran is the best thing for her to do. Immediately after this, Todd discovers BoJack passed out on the ground, and they all retreat to BoJack's office. BoJack informs them that there are reporters looking into his past, but he isn't sure why, and they all start to brainstorm to figure out what the story is. They write everything bad that BoJack has ever done on a whiteboard. Eventually, the reporters call Diane, and they realize the story is about Sarah Lynn's death. PC thinks they can spin the story in BoJack's favor, but Diane objects and says he should just tell the truth. BoJack is then contacted by the reporters himself, and he immediately denies the allegations, ignoring Diane's advice. She leaves in objection. Princess Carolyn sticks around to try and help BoJack through it, claiming that she's stuck by him for 25 years, and that when she tells Ruthie about the great love of her life, she doesn't want it to have a sad ending.
And when I tell my daughter the story of the great love of my life, I want it to have a happy ending.
PC sets up an interview with Biscuits Braxby to address the new allegations. The interview actually goes very well, and BoJack comes out looking incredibly sympathetic. But because the ratings were so huge, they decide to do a second interview the following night, despite Princess Carolyn's objections. While at the interview, PC realizes that Todd has the night off, and Judah offers to watch Ruthie for her. The second interview is an absolute disaster, making BoJack out to be a monster. Princess Carolyn seems pretty over it at this point. She reinforces that she told BoJack to go back to Wesleyan and not do the second interview.
I told you to do just the one interview and go back to Connecticut.
PC arrives home that night, emotionally exhausted, and embraces the time she can spend with Ruthie and Judah. Not long after this, Todd and his new girlfriend Maud convince PC to let them open a daycare for her office employees. They also tell her that they're moving in together. Princess Carolyn forgets to bring a gift to their housewarming party, but Judah brought 2 gifts and lets PC attach herself to them. Princess Carolyn learns that Judah is in a band and shows interest in going to his gig. But shortly after, Lenny Turtletop calls Princess Carolyn and asks if she can lead a new female-centric production company, basically giving her the opportunity to pitch her dream movie studio. PC and Judah work together pulling data for the pitch, but PC tells Judah to leave and make his gig. While working on the pitch, PC decides that it isn't important, and what is important is watching Judah's show. She arrives only to find that Judah went back to the office himself to help Princess Carolyn. At the office, Princess Carolyn and Judah decide they should get their own financiers and start the movie studio themselves. Princess Carolyn asks Judah to perform for her, and he plays a love song.
So believe me when I tell you I love you.
Shortly after this, BoJack is sent to prison for breaking and entering into his old house. He's sentenced to 14 months in prison. During this time, Princess Carolyn gets engaged to Judah, and in 2021, they get married. They have 2 weddings, a real one and an industry one. Near the end of his prison term, BoJack is released from prison for a day to attend Princess Carolyn's industry wedding. At the wedding, Princess Carolyn and BoJack catch up. She expresses that his new movie, The Horny Unicorn, is trending like crazy, and that he has a real shot at a comeback. BoJack tells her he started a drama program in prison and wants to volunteer when he gets out. The pair then share a dance and reminisce about their lives and what could have been. BoJack expresses that if he does get his comeback, he'll need help when he gets out of prison, and PC says that she can recommend some excellent people, suggesting that she is done working with BoJack herself. And as a bonus, in a fictional 2021, in a flooded Los Angeles, Princess Carolyn's imaginary descendant Ruthie tells her entire class about the worst day of Princess Carolyn's life. This was, of course, all a fabrication that PC used to cope with her worst days. And that is the complete Princess Carolyn timeline. PC is one of the most complete characters in BoJack Horseman, which is saying a lot. We learned so much about her entire life and history, and how her childhood helped mold her into the person we saw throughout the show, the good and the bad. She's truly one of my favorite characters in TV history, so thanks for joining me on this timeline journey. If you like this video, make sure to check out all my other BoJack timelines, especially the Mr. Peanut Butter one, and I'll have an episode breakdown on the episode Ruthie very shortly after this video releases, so keep an eye out for that. I've only got a couple more timelines left to do, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
Johnny to Cellos.